Viewers, drop your city and local time in the comments because what you're about to hear unfolded under the crystal chandeliers of Manhattan at exactly 8:47 p.m. And trust me, that timestamp will matter. The Meridian Club's penthouse is buzzing. The air's so heavy with champagne fizz and old money perfume, you could almost bottle it, when Victoria Whitmore's voice slices through like a knife wrapped in ice. "Excuse me, I don't recall seeing your name on our guest list." Every head swivels, the murmurs pause, and even the string quartet in the corner seems to lean in. The target of her glare, a woman in a sleek black dress, doesn't flinch. Instead, she adjusts her clutch. A motion so small yet so deliberate it makes the pearls on Catherine Whitmore's neck tremble. Phone cameras quietly lift. The onlookers are the kind who pretend they're above spectacle, but they live for this. Catherine leans in, her smile tight. The help should know their place. That's the moment Marcus Jr., their heir in training, starts recording for his Instagram story, probably thinking he's producing the next viral comedy clip. Dad James Whitmore Sr. doesn't laugh. He simply nods at security, a silent order sharpened by decades of boardroom dominance. Two guards appear, one tall enough to double as a coat rack, the other with a hand already resting on his radio. They ask for her invitation. The crowd cranes to see. She hands over a cream-colored card edged in gold embossing. The guard squints, mutters it appears legitimate. That one word up hangs in the air like a gnat you can't swat. Catherine chuckles, the brittle kind that sounds like breaking glass. A nearby server stumbles, and as she steadies herself, a business card falls from her clutch. The guard reads it aloud. Washington Capital Management. Victoria dismisses it with a flick of her wrist. Never heard of it. Probably a small-time shop trying to mingle up. Historians still argue whether this was the exact second their fortune shifted, but you can mark it as the point the digital tide began to turn. The livestream comments start calling them out, but in that marbling crystal bubble, they're deaf to the approaching roar. The family insists she step aside toward the service elevator. In front of 200 guests, they're sending her through the help's exit. Viewer count soars 15,000, 18,000, and still climbing. Then her phone buzzes. She glances at the screen, and something in her expression changes, like a chess player who just spotted mate in 3. She says almost lightly, "Actually, I think I'll wait for the main elevators." James Sr. checks his watch, mutters about their big announcement in 14 minutes. She tilts her head, repeats the time back to him as if noting it for a meeting agenda. That's when she dials a number and, without raising her voice, starts discussing the Meridian partnership with someone named Marcus, someone whose name lands on James Sr.'s ears like a warning bell. The guard freezes. Victoria's glass slips. And somewhere in the corner, a Bloomberg reporter starts typing like his career depends on it, because it probably does. The chandelier light catches in her steel-toned watch as she says, "I'm afraid there's been a complication with tonight's announcement." Every conversation dies. The champagne loses its fizz. Even a violinist in the corner lets a note trail off like a bird that just spotted a hawk. Marcus Jr. lowers his phone for the first time, his Instagram stream frozen mid-mockery. James Sr. steps forward, trying to reclaim the ground, but she lifts one finger, just one, in this man who's commanded boardrooms for 40 years, actually stops mid-sentence. That's when the comments start sprinting past the 30,000 viewer mark. She's talking Meridian. She's gonna wreck them. Still, the Whitmores seem stuck in an alternate reality where their name insulates them from consequences. Victoria leans toward her father, hissing, "What's Meridian Industries?" Catherine fans herself, muttering that it sounds familiar, maybe from the board minutes. Marcus Jr.'s face goes pale as his phone spits out the truth. This is the partner they're about to announce, the billion-plus deal they've been grooming for months. Historians still argue whether the real turning point was the phone call itself or the fact she made it with the casual air of ordering tea. 7 minutes to announcement. She's now spelling out Whitmore Industries' quarterly revenue to the exact $847 million, like she's reading from their own SEC filings. The Bloomberg reporter, David Kim, stops typing long enough to glance up, the way a fisherman freezes when the line goes taut. Guests start shifting uncomfortably. This isn't fun, Anna Marie, it's an autopsy in evening wear. Marcus Jr. finally punches her name in a search. The screen blares. Dr. Kesha Washington, CEO of Washington Capital Management. $50 billion AUM. The man who thought he was filming an easy punchline is suddenly realizing he's starring in the business equivalent of a horror movie. The live stream rockets past 45,000 viewers. She keeps her tone low, controlled, almost kind. You might want to have your counsel review the clauses on reputation and public image, she says, each word like a drop of acid on silk. A bead of sweat crawls down James Sr.'s temple despite the chill. 6 minutes. The coordinator's headset voice trembles like a violin string pulled too tight. Then the scalpel becomes a hammer. She pulls a folded sheet from her clutch and announces, in front of every camera in the room, "We also own 34% of Whitmore Industries." It lands like a thunderclap. Catherine's pearls suddenly look like a choke chain. Victoria's glass shatters against the marble. Even the guards glance at each other, as if wondering whether to escort her or start taking notes for job applications. She reads off their personal shareholdings, 12.4% here, 8.7% there, until the math is inescapable. She's not just a guest. She's their largest shareholder. In under 20 minutes, the power dynamic has spun 180 degrees, and the crowd knows it. By the time the coordinator mutters 3 minutes to announcement, everyone also knows there will be no announcement, at least not the one the Whitmores planned. Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, the Whitmore Industries boardroom smells faintly of mahogany polish and defeat. James Sr. sits in what used to feel like the captain's chair, but now feels like the dock in a criminal trial. Dr. Kesha Washington enters flanked by 2 attorneys and a restructuring specialist, her presence altering the room's oxygen level. The emergency board vote slices through their old hierarchy like a hot knife. Victoria suspended as CEO, Marcus Jr. removed as COO, Catherine eased out of the foundation board. Harrison Pierce, a longtime member, reads the motions with the clinical tone of someone detailing weather conditions, but the storm is very real. Her reforms pass in minutes. A $50 million minority business development fund operational in 72 hours, matched by Whitmore Industries over 3 years. Mandatory diversity training designed by Harvard experts. Anonymous reporting systems for every department. Marcus Jr. is ordered into corporate leadership rehab. Yes, that's a thing, and his social media gets locked down like a teenager's after a prank gone wrong. The digital fallout is its own spectacle. That Instagram live video, 2.8 million views and counting. Harvard and Wharton grab it for case studies on crisis management. A documentary series sprouts almost overnight when privilege meets reality. Historians still argue whether the true legacy was the corporate reform or Marcus Jr.'s accidental career as the poster child for "don't live stream your bad decisions." Financially, the company wobbles 23% stock drop but regains its footing within 6 weeks as ESG funds move in, drawn by the authenticity of the transformation. The canceled Meridian deal morphs into a consortium of minority-owned suppliers, shaving 8% off costs while creating more jobs. Inside Washington Capital's portfolio, other companies start voluntarily adopting the Whitmore standard because the numbers are undeniable: 19% higher revenue growth, 23% better retention. 18 months later, Whitmore Industries wins the Corporate Responsibility Excellence Award. James Sr. accepts it, but Dr. Washington gives the keynote, telling a room of 800 that real change comes when people choose growth over grievance. In the front row, Victoria sits flanked by 3 vice presidents she recruited from HBCUs. And Marcus Jr.'s Instagram now amplifies Black entrepreneurs instead of mocking them. Catherine's pearl necklace has made more trips to community centers than country clubs. And the marble penthouse where it all began, once a temple to exclusion, it now hosts monthly dignity dialogues between executives and employees, conversations that would have been unthinkable that night at 8:47 p.m. The same steel watch on Dr. Washington's wrist still keeps perfect time, but now it marks the moments when possibility, not prejudice, takes the floor. The wind down comes slow, like the city lights fading behind a descending curtain. You can picture her leaving that night, coat over her arm, heels clicking on the marble as the Whitmores stood frozen in a silence too heavy for words. Outside, the cold Manhattan air must have felt cleaner somehow. The noise of traffic and the hum of streetlights wrapping around her like applause only she could hear. Inside, the family's empire was already rearranging itself, though they didn't yet understand it. Change doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives in a quiet voice with a sharper memory than any insult. And in that voice is the reminder that power isn't about who gets to stand in the spotlight, it's about who chooses to build a bigger stage for everyone else. So tonight, as you think about boardrooms, chandeliers, and that one raised finger that stopped a patriarch mid-word, remember this. The world shifts when the right person refuses to take the service elevator.